Several things come to mind when thinking about ancient Egypt, such as pyramids, toilets and tomb, hieroglyphics, the tattoo, and beautiful cat statues, to name a few. Beyond that, we will be looking at the unusual things that ancient Egyptians did. Here are some of the odd things in history. Before we begin, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more intriguing videos like this, and be sure to watch this video to the end. Therefore, anytime we upload a new video, you will be notified so that you won't miss out on interesting videos from us. Without further ado, let's get started. Ancient Egyptians were big fans of cats. They believed that cats brought good luck to the people who owned them, and they treated them like royalty. When a loved cat died, all of the members of the family would shave their brows off to mourn its death, and they would continue to grieve until their brows grew back. Tattoo. Researchers uncovered tattooed mummies dating back to the 11th dynasty, as well as living women with tattoos in the form of dots and swirl on the lower chest, belly, and thighs in Egyptian art. Many historians believe that the markings had something to do with asking the gods for protection and blessing during pregnancy. It was once thought that only women of high status would get tattooed, but as time passed, the tattoos became more detailed and often resembled a deity to pay tribute to and gain favor with that particular god or goddess. The tattooing process itself was also significant. It was seen as ritualistic and began with the construction of a flat tattooing brush made of an odd number of needles braided together in a bundle. They were typically made of 3, 7, or 9 needles, and the Egyptians placed importance on each of those numbers. After the tattooing brush was constructed, it would be dipped in charcoal soot or indigo powder and then used to puncture the skin multiple times. Bathing in sour milk. The ancient Egyptians, most notably Cleopatra, were known to bathe in sour milk, typically donkey milk, to improve the look and texture. In Cleopatra's case, it has been said that 7,000 donkeys were required at any given time to provide enough milk for her daily baths. Hey, at least she didn't waste it. Wrapped mouse bone sacks around the necks of newborns and small children. It appears that there was a strong believer in the bones of rodents being able to heal children of their ailments. For example, it is said that to cure an ill infant, his or her mother would eat a mouse, and then the bones of that mouse would be put into a small canvas bag tied with 7 knots, and then hung around the baby's neck as a talisman. It has also been speculated that members of the lower class would employ a similar way to treat a child who was having bedwetting problems. Storing important organs in canopic jars. Canopic jars were vessels used to store and preserve a deceased person's internal organs during mummification, and then bury them with him or her. Each one held a different organ, one for the lungs, one for the liver, one for the intestines, and one for the stomach, as well as the heart, which was thought to be the home of a person's soul and remained in the body. These jars were originally plain and unadorned, but as time passed, they became more ornate and represented the 4 deities known as the sons of Horus. Hapi had the head of a baboon and stored the lungs. Dumyuth had the head of a jackal and stored the stomach. Imsiti had a human head and stored the liver, and Kebsenuf had the head of a falcon and stored the intestines. Use of ox hooves, ashes, burnt eggshells, and pumice for dental cleanliness. When it came to having fresh breath, the ancient Egyptians did not mess around. They used pumice to grind ox hooves, ashes, and burnt eggshells into a powder, which was then applied to the teeth and gums to protect them from hygiene issues. It was said to be pretty effective for those purposes, at least when it came to cleaning. But in terms of overall health, it probably wasn't great because it actively made gums bleed throughout time. It's also thought that they were among the first to invent toothbrushes or chew sticks, as they were known back then. They fashioned these instruments out of twigs, with one side serving as a toothpick and the other frayed at the end to work like bristles. Members of that civilization also developed their type of breath mints from concoctions of boiled herbs and spices like frankincense or cinnamon mixed with honey to be chewed or sucked on. Brewing beer and bread. The ancient Egyptians seemed to like beer, and they utilized it and bread as a sort of payment between enterprises. They were also regarded to be vital in offerings offered to gods and deceased ancestors. The soldiers and the estimated 10,000 workers who built the pyramids were paid in beer and bread. The Egyptians loved them so much that when the Nile flooded or too many crops failed to flourish to produce enough beer and bread for the masses, they believed it was a sign that the gods were unhappy with them. Produce family from their lineage. Tended to reproduce with members of their own families. which is also connected to the worship of the god of reproduction and fertility. Cleopatra is an excellent illustration of this. It was believed that her parents were brother and sister, and that she married both of her brothers at different times, even though no children were born from those marriages. It was also believed that Isis, as previously mentioned, and Osiris were brothers and sisters who married each other to maintain the power of their family. If you look at the pharaohs' lineages, you will see marriages between siblings and sisters, and even between parents and children in history. Of course, as we know now, this usually results in offspring with serious defects. For example, King Tut had a congenital disability in his legs causing mobility problems and speech disorders due to a cleft palate. Other pharaohs were discovered to have other malformations, such as Frolic syndrome, which is caused by extensive inbreeding within royal families. This tradition continued until the very last native Egyptian pharaohs reigned, built toilets in tombs out of reverence for the dead ancient. Egyptians built toilets into the tombs of the deceased because they believed that the deceased was still alive but on the other side, which meant that necessities like food, water, bathrooms, were still required. Pharaohs would keep their hair covered. He or she would always wear a crown or a headdress known as nemesis. These fashion statements also distinguished them from the regular people, who were not permitted to wear headdresses or caps. Created fly swatters out of giraffe tails. This one is very straightforward. Ancient Egyptians frequently manufactured fly swatters out of giraffe tails. Not only were these practical, but they were also regarded to be incredibly fashionable. The purpose of these swatters makes sense, because giraffes and many other animals use their tails to keep flies away from their bodies when they are alive. One female pharaoh wore a fake beard. Hatshepsut was an Egyptian pharaoh. The only problem was, Hatshepsut was a woman, and female pharaohs weren't always taken seriously. So she decided to do something about that. Surviving statues of Hatshepsut show her with a long, ancient Egyptian-style beard. Although she probably didn't wear it all the time, the beard helped her look more like the ancient Egyptian gods. Would you put on a beard if it helped you become pharaoh? With that being said, that's all for today. Thank you for spending some time with us. If you found this video interesting, make sure to hit the like button and the notification bell, and subscribe to our channel to get access to more interesting videos from us. Till next time.